Welcome to another episode of the Cheerful Soundman podcast. It's a weekly show for event professionals about the challenges and lessons of producing stellar events with a smile. I'm Drew, and recently Eric had a chance to chat with Justin Nelson from Bearded Brothers Events, a local wedding and event planning company right here in Gainesville, Florida. They talked about getting started in the event business and getting through the pandemic and working with other event vendors, and really even some new technology that kind of makes event planning and stuff a lot easier. Great conversation. Before we dive in, remember to follow us on Instagram or Facebook at The Cheerful Soundman. All right, here's Eric.
Yeah, man. So it's been a while. So welcome. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Justin. Really appreciate you coming on and having us having you. I don't know. Appreciate you joining us. Would you just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, that sort of thing?
So I'm Justin Nelson, the owner and operator of Bearded Brothers Events here in Gainesville, Florida. And I've been down here since 2001. I work in a real estate office by day, managing the properties in our sales department. And that's just been my livelihood for almost 20 years. And I started getting into the industry working with touring companies and just doing like hospitality and like PR stuff for them, and found out I can do this on my own and started doing weddings and karaoke, and just now it's this. I've got so much going on I can't even keep track of it anymore. There's a couple of us now that have to stay on the ring just to make it even happen anymore. So
Right on. So what was kind of, how did you initially get into, well, I guess tell us more specifically too, when you say doing events, like what are kind of your main core competencies? Like what are the things that you're typically involved in with an event?
So it went from being just doing wedding DJing years ago to where we are now doing everything from coordinating to I'm officiating and notarizing weddings, coordinating, corporate events. We have the mobile bartending services now because we got our insurance and our certifications that the state requires. We got a photo booth, so that's a major hit at all events, whether it's weddings, birthdays, corporate, whatever. Like we're doing the 5K for Meridian coming up in February, so we'll be out there with that. But yeah, it stemmed from hosting karaoke at Alligator's bowling lanes to doing weddings, and now I'm doing everything above and beyond except for catering, which I won't get involved in that one.
You don't want to cook for that many people?
Nope.
Yeah, something about that does not sound appealing to me either. So trying to keep food warm or cold, or just always fighting the elements and everything. So you said you moved to Gainesville 2001, somewhere around there, and we actually had some overlap at the Phillips Center there for a little bit, didn't we?
Oh yeah, that was years ago. So with Jason,
2003, 2004, somewhere in there. Yep. And so what was that transition like for you from I guess from karaoke host, that sort of thing? When did you really start moving into kind of more, I don't mean to be insulting of the karaoke host, but like more of a professional, like planning and wedding realm?
So backtracking back to the Phillips Center, I had actually already been working on the road doing hospitality management for touring industries. So I was working in the green rooms and setting up the green rooms and setting up meet and greets and all that kind of stuff. And then when I came back to Gainesville to the Phillips Center, I ended up, working on stage, helping with like load in, load out. Started, learning a little bit more about rigging. So I started learning more of the technical side of it. But karaoke, let me see here. Karaoke was a thing for us until 2010. 2010 is when we started doing the DJing more full swing. Karaoke for me actually ended just last year. I stopped hosting shows completely. I just kept getting burnt out hosting every Friday night, not being able to do other things for other, requests. I bartend now at the Cade once a month for their Cade After Hours event, which if I was doing karaoke, I wouldn't be able to do that. So it's just like 2010, we segued into being able to offer more services. And then just in the past like year or two, I've been kind of like teetering off the karaoke because like Bill Fritz, he does all of our trivia. I don't have to deal with that. But like the karaoke,
Right.
I was the only one doing it. So
Yeah, that becomes, I know that, I think for all of us, that's an issue at some point with scaling as far as, you have to make that transition of, well, I can't be at every event myself. So I have to, if I want to do more than just one event or one or two events, I need to really be able to build a team of people I trust and that sort of thing. And I know for me, I was actually stuck there for a while because it was hard. It's hard to trust, and it's hard to trust, putting your name and your reputation in other people's hands as well. So I definitely get that. Um, so, now 2022, if we could flash back and you could, maybe have 5 minutes with your 2001 young self, with a beer, maybe not, I don't know. If you could have a couple minutes of chatting, what would you tell the young bearded brother?
go back to school. uh, my
Go
original
back to
goal was to go
school.
to my original goal was to go to Full Sail and finish it, and I was on a path to Berklee College of Music and do voice there, and I just never did it. I ended up just getting wrangled in with the touring industry and just saying, screw this, let's just go, let's just do it. And forgot Full Sail, forgot Berklee, and just went balls to the walls with the industry. I think the education, of course, gets you in the right concept of like where you want to be in the career versus being thrown into it just like under the bus. Like I literally had stuff just like thrown at me in the beginning, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but we're gonna make it happen, and we did. But here we are, like look at you, how long have you been doing this now? It's just like I feel the same way. It's just like, where
17
did I
years.
start from? Yeah, so it's just like how did I get here?
Yeah, I regularly think that. So I'm like, wait, what happened? I feel like I was just in my garage last week. So working out of there. So in that time, so I think this segues nicely to my next question is, you know, uh, without, I don't want you to incriminate yourself too badly. You can leave names and specifics out of it, but what is in all your years your biggest event fail that you've experienced? And then if the follow-up is always, what did you learn from that? I'll give you a moment to think, but while I tell you, mine had to do with, we definitely streamed a very ratchet event to a very corporate customer's Facebook page by accident. That was actually somewhat recently, fairly mortifying. Not something you want the Thongkini contest from one event going to the wrong Facebook page. But we had a stream key switcheroo and a little bit of a password caching issue. And yeah, so that would be mine. So I've now exposed myself pretty good. So if you have anything interesting, please lay it on me.
I don't think I've had like an actual like snafu at an event where I'm like, holy crap, that just happened. I've had an incident happen with a venue to where I will never do business with them again. And I'll leave it at that. And there's actually two of them in town now that has rubbed me the wrong way to where I just, every time somebody says their name, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't offer services there. And you probably feel the same way about some people in town.
Yeah, there's definitely, or a lot of ours tend to be, okay, if we're going to work with this client or with this particular venue, basically we're going to make sure we're firm on, well, we know every time we work there, it's all last minute and rushed. So we're going to charge for twice as many people than we normally would, if everything went as planned, because for this particular client, they always open the doors late and they're always do that sort of thing. And we try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and we know stuff happens and stuff changes, but definitely when people when places and customers establish and venues establish those patterns of behavior, I think it's wise to either say, hey, we're just no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. We're not going to work with them anymore. Or for us, a lot of times it's okay, we're going to charge more because it requires more resources and time due to, their organization.
Talking about that, congratulations on the new rollout of Vivid Music Hall.
Oh, thank you so much. Hopefully we don't qualify as a venue that you would never do business with the well, we have the productions, but then the music hall as well. So hopefully we don't.
No, I love it over there. So
I appreciate that though. So will you tell me a little bit about this has been, I mean, it's everybody's been living with it, but kind of a theme definitely for our industry, our events. Curious how, the last year and a half or so has been, like how it's been different with pandemic shutting down events, reopening, shutting down a little bit again, reopening, et cetera, et cetera. How has that been? What have you done to kind of adapt? I know you have a day gig. Was it even that big of a problem for you? Tell me a little bit about what that's been like.
So the day gig, we just shut our offices to the public. So that kind of worked out for me that I get to maintain my 40 hours a week and my salary, and the event side of it, though, of course, March is where it all went haywire in 2020. And I had 2 physical weddings just completely cancel on me and never reschedule. One of them was a couple from Maine, which I keep in touch with them. And they went ahead and did their stuff up there, and they said they would have rather just paid me to gone up there and done it, which I would have because that's home to me, But I had no events until July of 2020, and I want to say it turned into like micro weddings after that for me, to where it was just like elopements and just like little mini like cocktail hours and not even real receptions until like the fall. And luckily, knock on wood, I lost no money out of it. I just lost the patience of it, and now everything happening again, this next wave that we're getting, I've not had any weddings cancel on me, but I've had people scale back to where they're like, this is what we're going to do. I was like, all right, make it happen. So,
Yeah, we've had two events rescheduled. Now I think we have close to 50 events on the books total for January. So, this is out of a lot. And I think 2 have rescheduled, and both of them were because the actual band or artist got COVID and not because of an actual, like, nobody freaked out, nobody closed anything like that. It was um, hey, we're going to have to come back in March because, our band can't leave the house right now. They're quarantined. Um, but most of our venues also have, protocols in place and things like that too. So it's, I think everybody's kind of back and rolling with it, at least here in Florida.
yeah, I noticed that Ocala Civic Center had a big like guideline of like appearances and stuff like that for like what had to happen if you were going to perform there.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of our businesses in Ocala. So, we do Riley Arts Center and On Top of the World and some of those venues. And they've all been pretty good about they're filling their calendars back up. And they are, I think they're selling full capacity. Like I think you could sell full capacity, but it's tending to be about half capacity for most of their shows, which I'm sure isn't great for their bottom line in the end. I hopefully that starts to turn around. Um, but I think so. There's still a level of caution, but thankfully, they're still doing events, and their calendars actually are looking more full than ever. If hopefully this wave will get on out of here by the end of the month, and everything will be normal.
Yeah, we're all hoping for it to go away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you seen with that? Have you seen? You said there was some scaled back. Have you seen any other like major changes? With weddings, things like that. Are people doing it any differently, or is it just a matter of like inviting maybe fewer extended family and that sort of thing?
This upcoming season, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard people talking about it, like other coordinators and other DJs and stuff like that here in town. Like I know Saturday there was a wedding that I was going to go hang out at and just like see how everything went because there's a different setup at a venue that we were usually at, and they're like, yeah, half capacity of the actual original count, and they did everything outside. I was like, all right, cool. So, people are adapting, but
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of movement to outside, but I mean, it's Florida, so that's great. Really, you know, this time of year especially, and in the spring, it's gorgeous. I don't know why you'd be inside anyway. And then, summer times, if you're strategic and you have shade structures, even outside is really also tolerable and great. We're actually one thing, and I'll talk to you about this offline some, but one thing we actually bought some really interesting shape tent structures that are coming in. They look like a giant Pringle, and there's some other things, but they're very cool. I'll send you an email on it, but uh, I'm trying to sell you on my podcast. Sorry, didn't mean to go there with that, but I'll send those to you because that's a big part of the reason we're partnering on those with another company and bringing those into town is because I'm anticipating a lot of our events that have been sometimes outside, but sometimes inside, trying to provide them an option to take them outside and still have their normal 1,000-person capacity event and it not be in like a normal tent. So these are like almost band shell type of tents. So we're doing some things like that, planning, anticipating that. And that's one of our best resources here in Florida is we have, the outdoors. You can be outdoors most of the year in. So it's pretty great. Um, So shifting gears a little bit, and I like this question a lot for you. We ask a lot of our planners this question, but you're kind of on both sides because you do the production elements as well. You're doing lighting, and a lot of the different things that go into besides just planning. So what would you say are kind of the biggest challenges an event planner has in working with a production company for a live event? So kind of the event planner side, if you will, but then I think you have some good insight on both sides. So what is, because I guess I'm looking for like, what are the challenges and then maybe some things you found over the years that have made those challenges easier.
I think for the challenges, I think it'd be more or less the lack of communication and the lack of scope of what is going to be happening that day or like the day before for like load in and setup. Because with a lot of venues, you know, we don't get those full days of production load in, like we're used to, on the backside of like the stages, you know. For example, Cade, Cade closes at 5 o'clock. You get to start loading in at 4 o'clock, and the wedding's at 6 o'clock. So if you have a production team coming in as well, for like a band or, uplighting or anything like that, how much time and who's all going to be there to do it all, and then has there been actual communication of like the actual timeline of like load in and load out? That's probably been my biggest issue that I've noticed, when you're dealing with multiple companies. For us on our side with being able to offer all of it now, we're not like big and conglomerate of like scale of like offering, all the uplighting and all the like the scopes and all that. We don't do all that. But when it comes down to being able to get what the client is needing, we try to do it to where we just go pick it up and we do it ourselves.
And that makes a lot of sense because you're controlling the process at that point.
Correct. And then not only that, but like at the same time of being able to control of like the volume of what's needed. Because I'll tell, somebody, oh, this place only needs like 8 uplights, and they'll come back with like 40. I'm like, for what? I'm like, you're just wasting money. You want the intimacy and the actual texture of the lighting. You don't want a full scale like light show like at the Thomas Center. You want just like that nice vibrant uplight on the pillars and whatnot. So
Right. When we asked, we actually did this kind of similar question with all of our employees and all our actual production managers, as well as our engineers, all the guys out doing shows all the time, guys and gals. And when we asked them basically, what would you tell event planners you need to do better or differently? It was, I think, universally schedule, time, and power were the other ones. So it was, you know, can you get us an accurate schedule in advance of what's going on when we can have the building, when we have to be out of the building. And then the big one was power. We need this amount of power this close to where we're going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And that tends to be the power one tends to be very nebulous because a lot of people, most people don't have an understanding of it. So they say, well, yeah, I've got 6 outlets. Well, all 6 of those outlets might be on one breaker, which doesn't do us any more good than having one outlet. So we notice pretty consistently all of our staff, that seems to be across the board a production thing that's a problem that I think event planners could learn a lot from.
Well, that's even like going back to like talking with power, like DJs, knowing what kind of power do they actually require. Because if you bring in a DJ that's got powered speakers and a powered amp and their own lighting rig, how much power do they actually know that they need? Some of them don't even have a clue. They just like, oh, I just plug in, because like I was dealing with a DJ out at a venue out in High Springs, and of course they've got like separate circuits on each pillar, but they're all daisy chained. So if you plug in one and you've just like knocked out the power to the rest of the building, like, really? And I told the guy, I was like, look, you have to have separate circuits. I was like, you need to like run power cord over to this circuit, so then you're separating out your the draw that you have. Because like I run everything through a stage box now, so I've got my 1 amp for my speakers and my stage box. That's it. Like I'm drawing as little to no power as needed, and then my light bars are the Chevet LED 3-bar, so they draw like nothing because it's just household electric. But these guys that come in with the Bose and the powered subs and the powered speakers I'm like, this is not a concert, it's just a wedding. I'm like, come on. I'm like, this is overkill.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a big thing too, is knowing, I think a big part of that is knowing your customer. So it sounds like, you know your customer base well and your niche very well in that, smaller wedding market. And I think that's awesome. I think that's an area that tends to get a lot of amateur planners and DJs. And I like that you are, bring some professionalism to that realm, and also some realism of, you don't need 100 uplights. You can have a very nice event with 8, or 12 or whatever it is. You don't need, the Grateful Dead wall of sound to DJ the wedding. Um, but then also being able to understand, like, you know, there are some clients that want that do want the wall of sound. And then in those cases, then we go, hey, you're going to need more power. We're going to need a generator. We're going to need, you know, a completely different thing than what you're looking for. So
Yeah, it was just like, I remember I went and did what was it, a couple of years ago, I did the Equality Florida Gala at the Women's Club. And this is back when Pete still had the rental place there. And I went in one day and I was like, hey, I just need one light for every single color of the rainbow. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. I was like, I got this. So I literally went in and just like strategically placed those lights on that back wall on the stage and just lit them up. And there was just enough of that give off the lights scope that it just all blended together. And it was so cool. There's a picture on my Instagram and on my Facebook. But I took it back to Pete and he's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, don't worry, I got
yeah. That's nice. And that is sometimes it's hard to explain to folks, but it's, a lot of it is practice, a lot of it's trying different things, a lot of it's studying, and then a lot of it is just experimenting with things and just trying them out and saying, what if I move these lights a little bit this way? What if I do this? But definitely the more you know and the more you can study always makes that path a little faster. But it's, we always say it's not the tools, it's how you use them. I can give my 2-year-old niece my drill. She can't build anything with it. She can hurt herself, but she can't build anything. So, it's we have to know how to use the tools too. Um, so speaking of that, what is that's you'll love this segue. I'm going to crush it right here. What is one app or tool or device or things that people tend to overlook that makes a huge impact on event planning? Or like, kind of the same question, app, tool, device, something that's really helped you or changed your workflow.
Well, for me, it's the organization side of it. So I used to use Wedding Wire when I first got into the industry, and they had all the bings and whistles of being able to plan and being able to coordinate questionnaires and contracts and payments and all that kind of stuff. They got rid of all that, and they still charge the same price. So I went to 17 Hats, same thing. They started doing all the stuff, and then they started segueing out of their services that they were offering. So I went to HoneyBook. HoneyBook has like been the bomb diggity, in my opinion, for anybody in the industry. Because if you're a vendor and you're on HoneyBook, you can collaborate with that vendor for that event. So, for example, like if Kristen, from Always Eventful and I were working on an event, I'm the DJ, she's the coordinator, or she's got the photo booth and whatever. I can add her into that collaborative project, and she'll be able to share all the information that needs to be known between all the people that are working that event. Then for like the client side, the biggest thing is like bride and grooms using, like the Pinterest stuff, going on and seeing what kind of ideas are actually out there. I love Pinterest. I hate to say it, but I'm a Pinterest junkie when it comes to like everything from living here at the lake to podcasting. Like I just got into podcasting last year with COVID happening, and now I'm finally working in production side of it to where I can start getting a little bit more involved in it. I've been doing a lot of voiceovers this past year. I was doing some stuff with Disney for a little bit, and then I started doing some like commercial stuff, and that was fun. And the going back though with the app stuff, social media is always going to be a big thing too with the apps, like getting ideas from other couples and seeing how people are doing certain things, and the planning, getting like on Facebook, you can make an event. That's knowing how your people are going to RSVP, for the event versus using an RSVP website. So there's so many different realms of like apps of what people can use and what people lack in using. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that until it's too late, What was that? There was one I found the other day. It was like a picture share app. People were taking pictures at their weddings and just doing Snapchat, but they also had a pic share program that people could upload their photos to, and it became part of a photo album online. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Oh, very cool. So like you get almost like crowdsourced pics from your wedding
Exactly, and it's like all your
or your
friends and
event.
family
That's
taking photos, and
so simple and brilliant because everybody's taking pictures the whole time anyway.
yeah, and then you didn't have to worry about them hashtagging or hashtagging wrong or not hashtagging at all, and it's just like this is amazing. Like I really want to know about this. Yep, but yeah, like the couple had a link and like a username or like a gallery or whatever that was strictly to their gallery, and that's all they had to have. It was like a QR code that they scanned when they walked in and like, hey, share your photos to this gallery. And there was an app that they could download, or they could just go right onto like their browser. Cool. So I was like, crap, this is awesome.
If you find or remember the name of that, shoot it to us in an email. We'll tag it in the show notes or whatever so that people can find that, because that sounds really cool. I'm personally very interested in it. Yeah, for us it was just more organizational stuff internally. Slack is just a huge one, just because we have such a big team. So that's more on the, that would be on the planner side or the production company side. That's been huge, just communicating with our team internally. But then it's kind of like text, that it's like sending text messages, but it's more organized, so we can put it under specific events or specific venues. So as we make changes or somebody says, oh, one of the speakers is out at the Riley, we need to schedule a service call for next week. We put it on the Riley channel, and then the office sees it and schedules it. And so for us, that was huge. And then we're currently, again, we're at a little different phase and everything, is just with the size of inventory and personnel, but we're working on some inventory rental management systems now is the other one on our end. But that, I think that applies a little more to like rental houses as well as, I mean, people who deal with drapes and tables and chairs and things as well. I'm sure could benefit a lot from that side of things as well. Just tracking, knowing, hey, I have 3 events next weekend and I'm going to be short 30 tables without having to go out and like count your tables or your spreadsheets or whatever. You know, just knowing when you create the proposal, I'm short 30 tables. I'm going to need to either charge more and rent these from somebody else or turn this gig down, you know?
Yeah, well, like that's one thing I refuse to get into is rental stuff, like linens and napkins and silverware and cups and tables and chairs and stuff. You know, I've got 2 wedding arches that couples have given me, but like, of course, I don't advertise them, so I don't ever put them out there. But we have a wedding venue that we're rolling out right now, to where we're going to go install those at that venue. So they'll already be there, and then that venue has, I think, tables and chairs for like 120 people. I think that's what we finally ordered. Just passed the fire inspection today for the code, and
Awesome.
all we have left to do is get the insurance rolled out, and then we'll be able to start like booking weddings and events there. But that's 10,000 square feet right there, 5,000 inside, 5,000 outside, and it's all ready to go. So, but like I have a little bit of wedding decor. I don't care to do that. It's not my thing. But like you said, with having all the speakers, equipment, the everything, pipe and drape, all that stuff. Like I have pipe and drape, but it's just for the photo booth. But I can tell you right now, like when it comes to like a weekend, if I'm not booked, it's not booked. If I'm booked, that I'm the only one that's gonna be doing it. So I don't have to stress about not having enough gear going out, because I'm not double booking myself or triple booking. I do have it to where like now Andrew or Bill can go out and DJ the event, and I can go out and bartend an event somewhere else. So I'm not having to sit there and babysit all night long. So.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've noticed over the years is it's the middle in our industry is a hard place to be as a provider or planner. It's definitely being small, like where you're at, where you're mostly it's a one man plus some friends or help, a one man shop, or kind of closer to where we're at now with 20 something people and a bigger team where you have a big enough team that you can, you know, that I don't have to be, I'm more like a president, but I have generals, actually making sure things are running smoothly and all that. Because there's a certain point after about 4 or 5 people and 2 or 3 events where it just gets very difficult. We were there for a long time, and I think that was much more difficult than, honestly, than this giant team and warehouse and all that. I think this was a lot. That was the hardest time. So I think in a lot of ways, unless you have those ambitions, I try to steer people I don't get asked a lot, but I get into these conversations sometimes with folks early in their careers, and it's, well, if you don't have the ambition to be huge, stay really small, find a niche, get really good at it, and charge as much as you possibly as the market will bear for that niche, and then and be happy there.
Yeah, because like think about the whole thing is like in Gainesville, it's always been the 2 different companies, you guys and the other company, and it's just like before it was just like nobody wanted to work together. Now it's like everybody's working together, everybody's like tag teaming events together, and that's like with Kristen and I. She's always eventful planning and capturing many memories photo booth. I'm Bearded Brothers Events. I've only got guys working for me, but yet every once in a blue moon I'll need like some extra bodies, and I call her up and be like, hey, I need some help. But her and I tag team events. Like she and I, like the photo booth stuff, she's booked, I'm booked. That's the only way we've been staying booked, is by sharing business like that. And like, you know, with her now being over at 1908, you know how big that's gotten. You know, it's just like, how much more business am I going to get now because how busy she's over there? Well, I'm already starting to see some of it. So it's just like, that is crazy. And it's just like, with the DJing side, there's only 2 or 3 of us that actually DJ weddings. One of us, two of them actually, still have other jobs to where they're not able to work, you know, every weekend, or they can't just pick up a gig on the weekday. So I still have to send business to Wayne, you know. So that's the one thing about being in this industry on our side is there's people we like to work with. There's people that we trust with our business. And it's just like with you guys and having the other companies in town that you can do the same thing with. So.
Absolutely. It's about finding those partnerships. So if you were not doing events, well, you're already doing real estate, so let's not include that. But if you were not doing events and you know, being a bearded bro, what would you be doing? Like, where would we find you, you know, if you struck it big?
Probably still working in Nashville. That was my thing. Like, I worked on the road for many years. I worked with a lot of major artists. I had opportunities that I fulfilled working in the industry. I got to go on the Grand Ole Opry and be part of that one night. And it's just like, would I do it all over again? Hell yeah. Like, would I stop doing it? No. But then this came about, and I'm like, all right, here we are. You know, but at the same time, I kind of regret not pursuing my career. Like, I was major in singing and stuff like that, and I still love to sing, and I still record every once in a while, but would I have actually made a career out of it? Maybe, if I had the right people, you know, but I loved working behind the scenes and working for other people doing the same thing and having that stability and not having to worry about record sales and, you know, being in the limelight of, you know, who's the best artist right now and who's got the best song and all that kind of stuff. Would I go back? Yes, I would. I'd go back to it in a heartbeat.
So we would find you singing in Nashville. Is what I hear you say.
Or
So
or on tour.
there you go. What is a band or podcast that you're digging right now that you feel that people should know about?
Band? All right, so there's always been 2 bands in my realm that I've followed for eons. So Head and Heart. I fell in love with them years ago. But the band that right now has got my attention is where is it? Hold on. I just tagged them in Will Dempsey. He's a collaborative.
Will Dempsey.
Yeah, Will Dempsey. He's a collaborative acoustic artist. Him and Casey Donahue do like a lot of like covers and stuff like that, but they are making themselves known right now. But podcast is The Basement Yard with Joe Santagato. He is, by all means,
The Basement Yard. Okay.
Yeah, Joe Santagato. He's up in New York. Hilarious. He and I have the same laugh, by the way. So if you ever get me laughing on a podcast and like hysteric laughing, you'll be like, "Oh my god."
You're saying I need to be funnier? Is that what I hear? That I just felt either a challenge or a diss, either way.
No. Like, if you ever get me in a podcast where it's completely like no holds bar and like balls to the wall, that's the kind of like stuff that you'll get me like going on. Like, I'm keeping everything PG.
We appreciate that. The PG balls to the wall, the kick balls to the wall.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we're talking about, kids. Well, Justin, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people connect with you, find you online, those type of things, book your services, et cetera, et cetera?
So, of course, we have beardedbrothersevents.com, and all of our social media, Instagram and Facebook, is all Bearded Brothers Events. So if you see that beard with the black and blue flag behind it, that is us.
Very nice. So Bearded Brothers events, check them out. Justin, again, thank you so much, man. It's good to see you. Hopefully, I haven't seen you in a while, so hopefully we'll see you in person again soon. And hopefully we won't have to worry about infecting each other or anything like that. But it's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your insights. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cheerful Soundman podcast. If you like the show, it would be awesome if you could subscribe and leave a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. That would make our day. And follow us on Instagram or Facebook at The Cheerful Soundman. Either way, thank you for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you got a little something out of it too. Can't wait until we share the next episode, which will drop next week, so stay tuned, and until then, don't suck, and don't be a jerk.